Hi, I'm Gabby. Welcome back to another edition of The Fragrantician, where here on my channel I talk about perfumes with flicks. And I don't mean hair flicks, I mean cinema flicks. So if that's your style, as Claude says, my trusted cat, then keep on watching. So in today's video, I am talking about the Poseidon adventure, which for some of you may think, oh, and for some of you may think, oh, yes, a classic film made in 1972. It actually was the second highest film to gross profit apart from The Godfather, which I have never seen. I haven't seen any of The Godfathers. So if you think I should watch The Godfathers, I'm not a fan of Marlon Brando. Let me just needed to do something there. I'm not a fan of Marlon Brando. I'd like a couple of his films, older films from the 1950s. I haven't seen any of his films in the 70s apart from Superman, the original. So yeah, if you think I'd like The Godfather, then hit me. But anyway, we're talking about the Poseidon Adventure, starring Gene Hackman, Carol Lynley, Red Buttons. My cat's getting up here, Claude. Just say hello here. There we go, my darling. Stella Stevens, Shelley Winters, Jack Albertson, Pamela Sue Martin. No one dares diss my Pammy Sue. Yeah, Pamela Sue Martin. And I think Eric Shea, I'm doing this all from memory. I've researched, but I like to do it off the cuff from memory. That's how my mind works. So, Gene Hackman, what a character. What a, yeah, French Connection 2, Superman. I recently watched The French Connection, so if you want me to sense that, I will. And French Connection 2, I'd never seen it before. First time, a couple of week or two ago, loved it. The car chase, amazing. So Gene Hackman. But in this, it's all about a boat that is setting on New Year's Eve. Leslie Nielsen is the captain, and it capsizes by a mid-sea earthquake, waves of hundreds of feet. So as it strikes midnight, or just a couple of minutes after midnight, and then these characters, there's about 10 characters, Roddy McDowall as well, who was a child star, friend of Elizabeth Taylor. They get to the bottom of the ship, or the top of the ship, as it is then, not at the bow, but on the aft, where the steel, or whatever it's made of. That's how I look at things. It's only about an inch thick. It's very thin. Well, anyway, a few characters die along the way of this disaster movie, and it's a 1970s disaster movie by Irwin Allen. Beautiful music score by John Williams. We know he has a plethora of scores. Indiana Jones, Superman, Jaws, E.T., Harry Potter films as well, more recently, and the Poseidon Adventure. I think he even did the music score to, was it Earthquake or Towering Inferno? One of the others, I'm not sure. Well, anyway, music, beautiful. You see the boat as it's sailing. New Year's Eve, it capsizes, and there was no CGI. Everything was just used by some stunt people, but a lot of them did their own stunts, as a lot of the cast have said. Thrown about the ship. So the ceiling is now the floor, and the floor is now the ceiling, and they have to get to the bottom of the ship, which is up top, before it sinks. Remake in 2006 with Kurt Russell. Absolutely did not like it. So if you think it's that one, no. The only good thing about it is Fergie sings in it, not Princess Fergie, the singer Fergie. Love her in that. But apart from that, no. So yes, so there's some strong characters. Gene Hackman plays a preacher. He plays, I suppose you'd call him a preacher. Ernest Borgnine as well, another great character, plays a, well, let's go back to Gene Hackman because it's not usual for him to play that kind of part. But he does, he's very, very unmethodical. He's very unorthodox. That's the word, unorthodox. He's not like a typical reverend. And he actually says in his sermon, don't pray to God, but pray to that part of you that is God. Pray to that part of God within you. I love that. I resonate so much with that. And so that character, as it evolves, he is quite a strong lead. I won't give you any spoilers if you haven't seen it. Few characters do get killed along the way. Pammy Sue doesn't, thank goodness. Or Carol Linley. I will say those two don't. But anyway, so Ernest Borgnine plays a lieutenant cop who's married to an ex-prostitute, Stella Stevens. Quite a comedic portrayal of them both. It's quite a little bit comedy, drama, sadness, love, all of the emotions. And I like to get at the beginning of the film the characters as you get to know them. Whereas today, everything is done so quickly and you don't really get to know the characters. You don't know how they tick. I like a proper storyline like that. If you do, please like this video. It means the most to me. So, yeah, so him and Stella Stevens. I will say to the cast, the women, I don't know how they managed to walk in heels. This was the early 70s and they were like really big, long heels. Don't know how they did it, but they managed it somehow. And they got their paycheck. They worked hard for their money because some of it was maybe the bigger things were stunts, but a lot of it was done by them as well. And it's amazing what happens to them as they weave their way through. Shelley Winters, she is amazing. She is quite a force of nature, apparently, as a person, not just as a character. I remember Pamela Sue Martin saying she was a force of nature, she was a Leo. So, and they actually made her put a bit of weight on, and she could never lose that weight after the film was finished, which is a shame, really, because they do emphasize in the film about her being big and fat and all of that. And there was a little boy in it, brother and sister, Pamela Sue Martin, who plays Susan, and Eric Shea, that plays Robin. He's about 12. Pamela Sue Martin's about 17. I think she might have been 18 in the film. And they're brother and sister. And she's like chaperoning him, I suppose, almost. And then meeting their parents as it's crossing from the transatlantic cruise all the way from New York, all the way across the Mediterranean to Italy and Greece. So, yeah, Shelley Winters, she's a Jewish grandmother with her husband, Jack Albertson, going to see their grandson in Israel. I quite like those characters. They weren't my favourites, though. I mean, that might surprise some of you. My favourite characters, I would say, are, I love Pamela Sue Martin. I've always loved her. That was her big break. She then went on to do Dynasty, or Dynasty, as we say here in the UK, but I do say Dynasty. But she was only in 4 seasons and then she wanted to leave. God knows why. It was just getting off the ground and she left. And she's retired from acting. She still looks amazing. As you saw from the photograph. She's about 72, is she now? About 72, maybe 71, 72. So yeah, amazing. She's probably she's one of the youngest of the cast because a lot of them now, or all of them have now, apart from Gene Hackman, have passed away. So she has a crush on Gene Hackman, the Reverend. You do see her as the camera draws into her and she just like staring at him. And I say, girl, he's out of your league. He's not going to get with you, as he's chatting up another beautiful lady on the table. Leslie Nielsen, the captain, who's only in it for about 20, 25 minutes. There, I've gave you a spoiler. First time I ever watched this when I was a young kid, I was willing for him to live. I fancied him like amazing. I had such a huge crush on him, even though he was getting on then. You know, he was like maybe late 40s, maybe early 50s, I don't know. Who then went on to Naked Gun 2.5, Airplane. Yep, you know the saying, how do you like your coffee? I like my coffee black like my men. If you've not seen that film, go and see Airplane. Yeah. So they're in the ballroom. It moves over. The singer and the pop star artiste is this group they pick up in Gibraltar. Carol Lindley, who plays the character Nonny. She is a bit like a kind of like fish out of water compared to the rest of the cast, but she still is completely believable. She's very, very timid, very anxious. I kind of resonate a little bit with her, but she's the only one that decides to go with the group up the Christmas tree and then up through into the ship with the waiter, Roddy McDowell, who I loved in it as well. Really loved him in it. He had this bit of Irish accent in, which I quite liked as well. And there's a scene where he's listening to Carol Lindley singing, although it's not her voice, it's Maureen McGovern. But he's quite captured by her and the singing, and it's quite nice. I quite like these little plays of little things they use in the film, which is quite good. As I say, she then Carol Lindley befriends this man, Red Buttons, who is a little bit of a loner. And Shelley Winters actually says, all you need is the love of a good woman. Or maybe you needed the love of a good man, I don't know. But anyway, I think, well, he was straight in the film, but he and Carol Lindley, he talks to Nonny about her brother who's dead from the ship being capsized, and it's quite a close bond they have, even though they didn't get on set. However, they did years later as they got older. Actually, they became very, very close friends before they both died. Red Buttons was a comedian as well. I think he had a show in the 50s and 60s on TV in America. And he's quite logistic in his thinking as well, and he cares about Nonny. There's a scene in it where she can't swim, and he says, I'm not going without you, and she touches his face and she says, you're not really going without me, are you? I have to swim underwater. But he says, you can hold your breath, just hold on to me. And he takes her along and they survive. When they get to the engine room, Shelley Winters is this, I will say in the film, I won't give any more spoilers, but Shelley Winters is quite, she plays a part where she can swim really strong, and she saves the Reverend Scott. I love it. So yeah, it's quite, with the kids as well, it gives a little bit of dynamic, all different ages. Stella Stevens is the ex-prostitute who's married to Ernest Borgnine, and him and Gene Hackman go head to head. They are two alpha men. But as Gene Hackman says to him, as he's pulling him up, I think the difference between you and me, he says, is I can look at myself in the mirror and like myself, whereas he's saying to Ernest Borgnine, maybe you can't. Quite prophetic. Some of the lines that are delivered, it's dealt with so much passion, so much authenticity. Yeah, it was of its time. It could be dated now. It's over 50 years old, 51 years old, 52 years old this year, as old as me. But that aside, it still plays on raw emotion. It still plays on drama. It still plays on something that could happen today. It is quite a spectacular film. And Eric Shea's funny. He knows the little kid. He knows everything about the ship. And him and Ernest Borgnine, they have a little bit of a, what, you again? You know everything about the ship? And it's quite funny. And his sister Susan, she is this young nubile adolescent that swoons over Gene Hackman, and has this huge crush on him. And I just love Pamela Sue Martin. Anything that I remember her from Dynasty. So when I then watched the Poseidon Adventure in the 80s, when I was about 12, when I first watched it, I thought, oh my God, that's Fallon from Dynasty. And I was like completely smitten, wanted to be Fallon completely. I didn't want to be Kirby. No, Kirby was too wishy-washy. Fallon wasn't. She was quite strong in Dynasty. But their stunts, everything they do, they walk up all these stairs and all of these swimming through, and the water gushing in, and your heart beats of, for, are they or aren't they going to make it? And they do make it. A couple get lost along the way, but they do make it. And they said at the very end of the film, how many, when they opened the bottom of the ship, how many of you are there? And he says how many there are, just a handful of people. And they look at each other, and there's no other survivors. All the people that's left in the ballroom did not want to leave. The purser said, you must not leave. And they just followed him like followers do. I would have done what Gene Hackman would have done. I would have done. I would not have been able to have stayed there, because then they meet their peril. So the music, beautiful. The acting, incredible. The storyline, incredible. And I have to say, as a side note, I watched this on New Year's Day this year, just over a month ago. I was one day sober. And it was always my mission to watch. It's always been my mission to watch it on New Year's Day. And I thought I've got to just do everyday life, even though I was throwing up, even though I was going from the back passage, even though I was having anxiety attacks, even though my muscles were on fire, and I thought they were just going to I was going to, have a seizure or what have you. I don't know. I watched it, and I watched it all the way through, and I cried during parts of it. And you might think, my God, what a film to watch. It's not a very happy film, but in some respects, it gave me comfort, because these survivors were surviving, and they're not going through alcoholism, potentially, or drug addiction or anything like that. But they had a purpose. Gene Hackman had a purpose. He said, life is up there. Let's get back to the living. And it just resonated with me, completely resonated with me. And I'm glad I watched it. And I rewatched it again a week later, and I did not cry. I had to rewatch it again. It was kind of like a purge. It was like letting go of the past, actually. And it's the only film I can watch where they sing Auld Lang Syne, because I never, ever sing Auld Lang Syne or ever join in with it. I've never done that, because it has very, very strong memories of me as a child growing up. It was my mother's birthday, New Year's Eve, and it was some of the memories are so bittersweet. Some really bad memories, not very many good memories. And the good memories there were tarred by the bad memories. However, New Year then, I always used to spend with my grandmother and my father. So as I got a little bit older, about 11, 12, and I did enjoy New Year then. My first taste for alcohol was at the age of 11. A snowball and then brandy. That's what my life started like. However, in sobriety, in a program now, I can look at the film, and although it holds bittersweet memories, there's still a part of it that will always be in my heart. strange, isn't it? It's how a disaster movie can give you some comfort. I think it gave me comfort because there were actually some survivors that managed to make it through all the odds, walking the catwalks that they had to go up to and everything. And that was them in heels, the girls anyway. Carol Linley was in boots, high-heeled boots, and Stella Stevens in these heels, and Pamela Sue Martin. And it was jaw-dropping. And their fight for survival till the end, when they went up in the helicopter and it left the ship. And it just gave me a sense of comfort, maybe because I knew what the ending was going to be, and maybe because I just love it so much. As a side note, another side note, it was filmed on board the Queen Mary in the beginning, before it capsized, portions of it. So the cabins you see and the corridors you see, I'm not sure about the ballroom, but they were on the Queen Mary, as it was then, still is in California. It should never have been sold to them, in my opinion. We should have kept it here in Southampton. Still, there we go. What can you do about it? Yes, I would like to go on board the Queen Mary. That was one thing I would like to do, just to experience it. My grandmother went on the Queen Mary in 1947. So when she did a transatlantic cruise back from the USA to the UK, where she was from. So I just loved it. So what are your thoughts on it? Do you love the Poseidon Adventure? Do you hate the Poseidon Adventure? But not all. There is fragrance. I'm going to scent Stella Stevens, that blonde bombshell, that ex-hooker, that woman that shouted and was fierce and strong, and boy, could she swig brandy in that film. There's a scene in that where they got a bottle of brandy, yeah. And I think I'm going to scent her Fracas by Robert Piguet, because it makes a noise. It's a statement. It came out, a lot of women were probably wearing this in the 70s, although it came out in 1948. This is a tuberose bomb, and it's a bombshell. It really is this creamy tuberose that screams white floral. And I love my tuberose as well as my jasmine, gardenia, lily, all of the white florals I love. I absolutely adore white florals, and they'll always be a special place in my heart. So if you're looking for a white floral and you're thinking, I want to feel like an ex-hooker, that drinks to love, as Reverend Scott says, what are we going to drink to? We're going to drink to love. And she turns to Ernest Borgnine, to love, dummy, as he looks at her like, oh, yes, she was that type of woman. So Fracas by Robert Piguet. Now, I'm going to actually scent the actual experience. As Carol Linley is singing, There's Got to Be a Morning After, which I love. And that is, I've not talked about this scent before because I got it at Christmas. It is La Prima by Milano Fragranze. So, and the reason why I've chosen this is, well, it's meant to be a night at the opera. No, a night as you're going for New Year's Eve on the SS Poseidon, or Queen Mary as it was, they filmed on, as in the ball, and you're sat at the captain's table and you're wearing this next to Leslie Nielsen, who just leans in closer, gets a little smell of it and is intoxicated by this. It's hard to explain this scent. Now, it was John Scented Snowdrops who got me onto this scent. If you haven't subscribed to him on YouTube, please do. He does have a channel. He's also on Instagram, but I'm not on Instagram anymore. Yes, shock horror. I've come away from Instagram and TikTok. This is my medium. This is where I am happy at. And for me in sobriety, that's all that's important, to live a sober and clean life. And that's important. This, do I feel clean wearing it? Well, I feel naughty clean. This is a naughty scent, and John Scented Snowdrops wore this one Christmas a couple of years ago. It could be a Christmas scent. That's why I'm going to wear it on New Year's Eve. It has this floral yet slightly animalic, which I love. It dries down to this beautiful musk, which has like this fur-like quality. It's not like Salome, though. If you have an adoring of vintage scents, but you steer away from the likes of Poison or those kind of scents, this is for you. It's beautiful and stunning. I wore this a couple of weeks ago. I was wearing this, and he said, "What are you wearing?" He rarely comments. This also has a magnetic feel, but this is dance. This is gaiety. This is, you know, let's get down 70s groove, if this was in style then. It's in vogue, it's fashionable, it's timeless, it's classic. It will never go out of fashion. Never. It's a class act, like Pamela Sue Martin. Just had to add that in there. So La Prima. Now, the last scent I'm going to actually talk about is a symbolism of the film. And I think Pamela Sue Martin could wear this. Anyone can wear this scent. Now, this is by Christian Dior, Diorissimo. And the reason why I've chosen this is because the lily of the valley represents luck and happiness. And even though there were some unlucky souls on that ship, the lucky souls that got to survive, this symbolises them. Luck, peace. I do hope Red Buttons and Carol Lindley really kind of like, they had this relationship, even though they didn't get on as actors in later life, they did. On the screen, you believe that they care about each other. He cares about her, and she sees that. And he talks about a scene where life will go on, you'll meet new people, things will go on. He brings a beacon of hope. And this is what hope signifies to me for the Poseidon adventure. Did you enjoy that video? I thoroughly enjoyed this video. If you like more of my content, please do like, please do subscribe. Also, if you like my video, it's very basic. No, that's not the right word, basic. It's very simplistic, my setup here. I like to present myself as my authentic self with very little editing. Me just talking to you and about the film, the essence, capturing the essence of scent with a film. Tune in to the next one, next chapter. What will it be? Well, it's going to be a very, very famous actress who's deceased now. Synonymous. That's all I'll say. Until next time, you've been watching myself, the Fragrantician, films and flicks and scents. So yeah, if you do like my content, please like, subscribe if you want to as well. I try to upload videos at least twice a week here on my channel. So until next time, take care of yourself, enjoy your films, and wear your scent while you're enjoying your films. And I'll see you all in the next video. Bye for now.